In this video, we're going to learn how to solve formulas for the linear variable. So this little extra bit here is a disclaimer. We're not going to be solving for any variable that has higher power than 1. So we're going to keep it nice and simple. So our first one that we're going to start off with, we're going to have the direction solve for the indicated variable. So it's up to the problem to tell us which variable we need to solve for. And we got a plus b equals c, and we're going to solve for b, just to get us into it, okay? So pretty much what you are going to need to do here is focus on where your equation sign is. That way you know how to keep it balanced. What you do to one side, you must do the same to the other. And we are focused on solving for b. So anything around b is not okay with us, and we got to get rid of it. So right now we're looking at a plus b. We want to get rid of that a. Always look to front of the term, in front of the term, to determine if you're going to add or subtract this. In this case, because it's a positive a, we are going to subtract a. And what we do to one side of the equation, we must do the same to the other side. So we're left with b equals, order matters here, but you could write negative a plus c if you really wanted to. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as c minus a. I can't combine them because they're not like terms. B is by itself, so we have solved for b. Now, if you had somebody who is very picky about writing it in descending order, you would have to switch the order to be negative a plus c. The c is still positive, the a has always been negative, and you just swap it using commutative law so you can add in any order. Okay? It's up to you which one you think is prettier. Either or are good for most people. Let's go ahead and make this problem a little nastier. Let's say we have y equals mx plus b, and we want to solve for x, just because. So same idea. If you can combine anything, go for it, but generally with formulas, they're as simplified as they can be. So there's not a whole lot of simplification. There might be fractions, and we get rid of those. None here, so let's focus on our equal sign. And we got x, who we want to solve for. So simplification's done. There's only one x here. We got this plus b going on. Don't really like it, so I'm going to subtract it. And what I do to one side, I got to do to the other side. Now, y minus b, I don't know anything about that. Let's just leave it as is. And I have mx. X is still not by itself. So I have to manipulate this equation one more time. Got to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide by m. Because it was multiplication here, so I undo it by dividing. And what I do to one side, I must do to the entire other side. This is where implied parentheses can come into play. The y minus b would be done first, and then you would divide that entire expression, whatever it would be, result, by m. So our final answer is x equals that y minus b, all of that, divided by m. And you're done. Now, again, formulas, we can always kind of write them in a couple different ways. If you want to divide each term by m, and write it as y divided by m minus b divided by m, that's okay too. I personally, in my biased opinion, don't think that looks nicer, but this method might help you in simplifying a nastier polynomial of some sort, okay? I think this way is just a little bit nicer. Let's do one more, and let's throw in a fraction for funsies, okay? So we have our third one. We have capital A equals 1/2 h times capital B plus lowercase b. This problem, not just because I threw in a fraction, but because the capitalization here usually throws off students. In mathematics, a capital B is not the same as a lowercase b. They are two different variables. So do not combine them. Do not change capitalization in formulas. They are definitely there for a reason. And let's make sure we indicate what variable we are solving for here. We're going to solve for lowercase b. So capital B, don't care about you. Now, again, there are quite a few, I'd say like 2 or 3 good ways to do this. I'm just going to do one of them because there's no need for confusion. We have a fraction. My first step whenever I see a fraction in any equation is to eliminate it and get rid of it by multiplying by the LCD. In this case, there's only one denominator here, so the LCD is just that denominator. So I'm going to multiply everything times by 2, right? So I just wrote that. We have 2 times the A. We have 2 times the 1/2 H times this stuff in parentheses. Okay? And what that's going to do for us is that we have 2A equals 2 times 1/2 cancels out, and we're left with H times B plus lowercase b. Okay? And sometimes students get crazy here and try to do different distributive things. Do not do that. It's all one big multiplication. You just chose to multiply this piece first. Okay? Multiplication, the order doesn't matter because of commutative law. Now we still haven't solved for b, so there's a couple ways you can do this. You can get lowercase b out of the parenthesis by distributing the h. That's a fantastic way. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. Now, some other students might divide the h first and then subtract. That's cool too. You'll get the same thing as me. So we're going to go ahead and clear the parentheses by distributing that h to each term. And now I still want lowercase b to solve for. So I am going to manipulate what I do to one side, I'll do to the other. And I'm going to get rid of h capital B by subtracting it. No, it's a little funky. It's just one item here. It's a positive HB, and I'm going to subtract it. What I do to one side, I got to do to the other side. And please be careful of my B's if they look ugly. Go a little slow there and make sure you got your capital B written nice. And HB minus HB cancels. We still have the lowercase b with H. B is still not by itself. So I'm going to manipulate it one more time. It's H times B, so I'm going to undo it by dividing. Now remember, this entire left-hand side would have to be simplified first, so there's implied parentheses, and then divided by H. So that we would be left with, and let's scoot over here, with B equals 2A minus H capital B all over lowercase h. Now, this is one of those situations, if you distributed that division of the h, you would get something maybe a little more simplified. You'd have 2a divided by h minus h capital B divided by h, and you would see the h's cancel out, and you're left with 2a over h equals capital. Oh my gosh. Let me fix that real quick. Not equals, minus, and then be capital B right there. So that's what lower b will equal. Either or is a perfectly acceptable answer. I like single fractions because they usually work better in future math, but breaking it up could be a nice way to simplify. And that's all.